Picking up the Impala and the Cruise, that's on the Tesla, part of its security system.
Man, if y'all seeing what I'm seeing, the amount of footage that they got to see all of this is crazy. Clock in. Black gotta just walked in. Team Black gotta stand up, man. Yo. All right, we here. We made it to the Foolio murder trial, and I believe we're gonna have a lot to cover when it comes to this situation, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to see how this joint play out, because we already know, y'all, they're a little bit too hot out here. They definitely need some milk. Now, I already feel like everybody's guilty, including Alicia Andrews. But, you know, her defense is she really didn't know what was going on. She was on a honeymoon with her dude. They were stopping by McDonald's to eat McDoubles. And whole time she thought she was on a sweet honeymoon. Whole time he was trying to get rid of the op. So this is her argument. And I believe state's duty in this trial is to prove that she capped. You wasn't on no damn honeymoon. You was out eating McDonald's burgers and trying to catch the op. Straight up. But let's take a look at what state had to say of the principles of what she can be charged for or with, depending on what part she played in this crime. Let's watch that.
This is a law that you heard a little bit about. You'll be instructed on it at the end of this case after the evidence is given to you by the Honorable Judge Sisko. She will instruct you on the law of principles as well as the law on murder and all the other laws that you will need to render your verdict in this case. The law of principles, if a defendant helps another person to commit or attempt to commit a crime, that defendant is a principal and must be treated as if they had done all the things that the other person or persons did, if we prove this beyond a reasonable doubt, that they first intended that the crime occur and did some act or said something, anything, that was intended to and that did incite their co-defendants to commit this murder, cause them to, simply encourage them to, assist them or advise other persons to actually commit that crime. Now, incite, cause, encourage, assist, or advise the other person to actually commit or commit the crime. For first-degree premeditated murder, we must prove that this defendant intended that Charles Jones be killed. It is not necessary for the principal to know every detail of how a first-degree murder will be committed as long as they intend that it occur. And they did some act or said something that was intended to help or did help the murder to occur. But
damn, that kind of kills her little argument, right? Her thinking that, you know, she could just use her alibi. Like, I didn't know they was gonna kill him. Whole time, even if you knew they was out with intentions to even possibly see about him. And I could see what her brain was probably at too, you know. She done probably went on so many dummy missions with her baby daddy that she ain't even think this mission was gonna actually be successful. And by the way, they moved throughout this whole process. I don't think none of them thought this was gonna be successful. It was just gonna happen the way it happened. I remember at first people was thinking y'all was damn near working with the military, how y'all pulled up. Like y'all was trained shooters. That's what people was thinking at first. Whole time y'all lad with crash shots. Crazy work.
almost more importantly, the principal, the defendant, does not have to be present when the crime is committed or attempted to be committed. But in this case, folks, you will hear that this defendant, Alicia Andrews, was right there, driving right next to that Dodge Charger in the seconds before this murder happened. If the defendant is found by you to be a principal, then she is legally responsible and accountable for everything that her co-conspirators, her co-defendants did. Alicia Andrews, these are her co-conspirators. I don't know if this laser is going to work, if you can see. In the upper left-hand corner, that's Rashad Murphy. Lower left, Davion Murphy. Sean Gaithright is in the upper right. And in the lower right is her boyfriend at the time, Isaiah Chance. These were the 5 conspirators. This was the assault team that took out Charles Jones.
Now, y'all, when I say they broke this situation down to the T in this whole opening statement, is crazy work. You would assume that State was actually there. Like, I ain't gonna lie. They did a crazy job with finding information on this case. Cause just listening to Famo talk, it felt like he was there. Like, literally, it felt like it just was too sweet. You know what I'm saying? To not peep. And if I'm being real, this whole hit was like a reality TV show, cause everything they did was on camera. From the second they started planning it and getting ready and suited and booted to go commit the crime, to even when they did it.
The message of that message there from the owner of the Airbnb: our HOA requires for security purposes that all guests booking with us provide a valid ID, which he obliges and sends his valid ID.
That man sent his ID.
Now we go to the 22nd.
Crazy work.
This is the Saturday. Earlier in the day, before Foolio is going to start appearing at clubs in Tampa. This is the residence of Sean Gaithright, one of the conspirators. That is Mr. Gaithright walking out with a large duffel bag, and Isaiah Chance walking out with bags. And you'll see they start loading that black car, which is a Chevy Impala. That is the car that goes north in the hotel complex. That is the car transporting the assault team. And they load the bags into the trunk. That BMW on the top of the video there is being driven by Mr. Chance. And you see him bringing out another large bag. They're kitting up and they're getting their gear into their transports. You'll see in the evidence that Mr. Chance ends up leaving in that Beamer. He drives and picks up his girlfriend, this defendant, Alicia Andrews, and brings her back to this residence. And then the 3 of them, Miss Andrews, Mr. Chance, and Mr. Gaithright, get into that Impala, and they drive here to Tampa, and they drive to the Airbnb, and there will be zero doubt about all of that, because that Impala, while it's en route, is being picked up on license plate readers. You will see in the evidence their cell phones are tracking, hitting cell towers as they travel in unison all the way down to I-75, coming across from Jacksonville and heading directly into Tampa.
No.
When he comes back, Mr. Chance brings his contribution to the assault team. The Glock pistol with the extended magazine. He tucks it into his waistband. You can see the extended magazine sticking out in the trigger guard and the slide and the dust cover of the pistol. Just a more close-up photo of it. And you can see it bulging out of the right side of his warm-up pants he's wearing. So these 3, Chance, Gaithright, and the defendant, get in that Impala.
All right, y'all, let's be real, y'all. They are cooked. Like, bro, y'all so cooked. Y'all burnt. Like, burnt food. Y'all extra cooked. But we got to stick to the topic, right? Her main argument is to say she had nothing to do with it. She ain't know what was going on. We gonna stick to the plan, right? She was basically on a honeymoon. At least that's what she thought in her head. And at the same time, her boyfriend abusive. So he was kind of pushing her to do whatever she did. You feel me? But it's going to be so hard. Because when I say they had cameras everywhere, y'all, they had cameras everywhere. She can't even deny the fact that, like, she was there.
You see the defendant opening the phone for Mr. Chance, and you can see their COVID masks. One is wearing the blue COVID mask that was so prevalent in 2020, 2021, and she's wearing a black one.
All right, so all the way from them being spotted on all type of cameras, that ain't even the last amount of cameras they done had on these folks, man. They even got the damn traffic cameras to surveillance and kind of track everywhere they was going to follow Foolio them. Yo, this is wild. Like, bro, this bad.
Directly across the street is USF. There's an Embassy Suites there. That is Mr. Jones' car doing a U-turn and going back on McKinley, and you'll see it turn into the hotel complex, followed by the Hyundai and the Altima. And as you can see, there is no car visible except for those oncoming lights now coming up the northbound side. That is the Chevy Cruze. It goes eastbound. No other car on McKinley can be seen. It's not even in sight. The Chevy Cruze ends up going eastbound, then comes back westbound, turns northbound. There it is, into that parking lot. And now, several minutes later, comes the Impala, which, this is the assault team. Does a U-turn, you will see, goes southbound on McKinley, following the path of Mr. Jones and his entourage, and pulls directly into that hotel. That car wasn't anywhere to be seen when Mr. Jones and his entourage were going in there. But the Chevy Cruze was there with this defendant and Mr. Chance, providing critical intelligence to them with this defendant's phone. Once it pulls in, you'll start seeing cameras from different locations within the complex mounted on the home to suites surveillance system that'll pick up the Impala's path as it travels. So the Chevy Cruze, at one point after the Impala goes in, blows through a red light on Fowler to get over there and turn in to the hotel. By that point, the Impala is all the way around on the west side, you will find in the evidence, of the hotel, and setting up for the attack. But now the Cruze has to come, the evidence will show, to drive by and confirm where is Mr. Jones. The red marker is the Impala and its path. It comes in, it goes northbound, it goes westbound, it goes southbound around the Holiday Inn, down across the south end side of the Holiday Inn, back to the east, and then it parks. First it goes down, you can see that red arrow next to the home to suites on the west side. It kind of pulls down there, it has to back up and pulls in. When the blue markers is the Chevy Cruze, when that pulls in and pulls around and does the three-point turn, you're going to see in the video evidence right here, they pass within feet of each other at the same time. And of course, the Impala never goes around or reveals itself past that point, keeping out of sight of Mr. Jones and his entourage. This is a camera mounted on the east side of the home to suites, pointing to the southeast, and it is picking up the Impala now, pulling into the complex and going northbound on the east side of the hotel. This is going to go to a camera facing north-northeast, showing it passing, still going northbound. And then it turns back to the west. This is a camera that's mounted on the north side of the home to suites that picks up the Impala as it passes and turns towards the west. And now the Impala is on the west side of the hotel. There's this pool and this patio area here that's on the west side of the hotel. Going around this way would be the portico. This is the west side of the hotel. The charging stations are right here. And you can see the Impala comes and stops. It does not go around that southern end of the home to suites. It's avoiding the southern end at this point. And here comes the Chevy Cruze passing directly past in the car that's not known by anyone, the victim. Goes to the north where the Impala is. Goes right past the Impala. Does a 3-point U-turn and comes back. This is another camera picking up the Impala and the Cruze. That's on the Tesla, part of its security system.
Man, if y'all seeing what I'm seeing, the amount of footage that they got to see all of this is crazy, bro. They using Tesla cameras, Ring cameras, street cameras. They got the phone calls. Come on, man. They got videos of all of them together. By the way, we about to see one of them right now. Like, bro, how on earth is any one of y'all gonna beat this? Well, y'all ass so cooked, boy.
Catcher on the side of that rifle. Another view from the Tesla of DAY1 Murphy running back to the Impala. This attack was relentless, as you saw. They weren't going to stop. They were going to make sure that they killed Mr. Jones, that he was not going to live, that they were not going to go back to Jacksonville without him dying. And you saw that relentless attitude of these defendants as they were shooting. This is the Airbnb. That's a photograph of, well, actually, this is a video. So this is the night they get there. This is Saturday, the 22nd. The defendant entering. There's no volume on this, but when she walks in, someone says, "My bad." Mr. Chance having maybe a celebratory drink. This is the next day around 2:30, 3. You can see he has to keep knocking. The person getting in that silver car is an Uber driver who they have called. That is how they returned to Jacksonville. The defendant, Mr. Chance, and Mr. Murphy this time returned to Jacksonville. Now they're unloading, bringing out all of their kit and their gear, their weapons. There's Mr. DAY1 Murphy. Now they're getting sloppy because it's the next day and all of the conspirators are visible. There's Mr. Murphy trying to go back in. Mr. Gathright walking out with gear. They don't they don't leave the way they came. They flee from this murder separately and in a different format. That's Mr. Gathright. He leaves independent of the others in the Impala.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is narrating the evidence, stuff that's not even been introduced, Your Honor.
Well, because it's opening statement. He's just telling the jury what he believes the evidence will show. So I'm going to overrule the objection.
You can see Mr. Gathright goes over to the side, to the back, and that's how they got in the day before. The evidence will show Mr. Gathright, Sean Gathright, whose house they all started at with the Impala. He leaves, but he doesn't go back to Jacksonville. Mr. Gathright drives across I-4 to Polk County, to Auburndale, to his grandmother's house, where he switches cars. He leaves his Impala at his grandmother's house, and he takes her Toyota 4Runner, and he drives that to Orlando, where he goes out that night to a club, and he posts a photograph of him drinking Don Julio tequila, which is a diss to Charles Jones. Charles Jones, Julio Foolio, was known in all of his social media to drink Don Julio. That's where the name came from. He was notorious for that.
All right, y'all. That's it right there, man. For the key points of the opening argument for state. And I feel like they cooking so far, man. I don't think it's too much the defense could say. But I guess we're going to see in the next coming videos. How in the heck is y'all going to fight back to this? Let's see, though. What y'all think?